So we will share it out to everybody that attended and those that may have had a change in schedule.
Hi, Cliff.
All right. Why don't we get started?
Okay.
So as I had said earlier, welcome to our webinar. This is a unique opportunity to get to know Ruffian Software, their solution, TechIDManager. This is really about their platform and for managed IT providers to, automate and manage identities for your technicians across your entire client base. And we're going to see some of that today, and then also field some questions and some, ideas you have about how you'd like to see this in your environment. This is brought to you by Taylor Business Group. My name is 𝗬𝗵𝗿𝗆. We're a 20-year business improvement group company. We're in this space of MSPs. We're actually the only independent-owned business improvement group in the industry now. We've been doing this for a long time. We engage in direct consulting, peer groups, business improvement groups for owners in the area of services, COO, general business management, sales and marketing, and then direct engagement with clients and helping them in their effectiveness of their business. We also have a unique SaaS model, which is 𝗦𝗵𝗶𝗿, the only one of its kind in the market that really measures every benchmark in the industry from a financial standpoint. So that's a little bit about us, and bringing to you 𝗦𝗵𝗿𝗆, who is the founder of Ruffian Software, who is our guest today, and is going to talk a little bit about where they come from and who he is in his background and his team, and their platform, which I mentioned earlier. So I'm going to turn it over to Martin, but we are going to engage in some interaction. This is not just going to be a talking head or voice, but we do have some information to share on screen, and then we'd like to field some questions from all of you attending as well. So why don't I let Martin start it off, and we'll begin.
All right. I'm 𝗦𝗵𝗿𝗆. I'm going to tell you something about myself, and then about TechIDManager and Ruffian Software, and why I started Ruffian Software. I got a computer engineering degree from Clemson University many moons ago. I worked in industrial automation, security software, business systems. I wrote genetic algorithms for a while. And for 12 years, I was the head of a development wing attached to an MSP. In those 12 years, I saw security go from something that nobody cared about to something everybody was hyper-focused on. Malware became a problem, software came out to fight that. Backups became a problem, software came out for that. One area that was really missed in that security transition was privileged account management. Every MSP that I worked with and all the ones that I talked to, they all had like one shared administrator account and one password that would get you in everywhere. That to me was just a really unsecure situation. I'm sure that privileged account management for every MSP is a tricky area, an area where they just don't really want to look at because there's a lot of effort to fix that. Like the MSP that I worked with, we had 25 technicians and 400 domains. There's one username and one administrative username and one administrative password. It would do all those sites. I thought you should have a unique account for every technician on every domain. But for almost all MSPs, that's untenable. It's just too many accounts to create. Like 25 technicians and 400 domains, that's 10,000 accounts to create and maintain and change passwords on. So we need software that automates all of it. In 2017, 2018, I looked around, there was nothing in the market that helped an MSP do privileged account management. So in February 2019, I left that job working with an MSP and I started Ruffian Software and wrote a product called TechIDManager. The point of TechIDManager is that every technician at MSP gets a unique account on every domain, and they get 0 effort password changes, 0 effort security rights set up. The technician doesn't need to do anything to maintain an account at all those places with a password that rotates every 24 hours. The manager needs to do near zero effort to maintain all those accounts. So the real point is that every technician has a unique account in every domain, and all that's fully automated. So I saw a lot of issues with that. What do MSPs, any of the attendees here, do you have anything that you do for privileged account management? Just throw it in the comments and look at everything. I know that some of the things I saw privileged account management at different places was one shared administrator, one username, one password, catching everywhere. I saw places that had one shared administrator account that had a different password at every place. Some of them were like patterns on the MSP name and the client name, so that anybody that worked in MSP could guess the administrator password for any of their clients. That was a really unsecure situation. So you really need unique account, every technician, every domain. Does anybody have anything that they think should be done different for privileged account management than that? Put it in the comments. I'd love to do it. So let's talk about TechID. There are 3 pieces that work together to make TechIDManager make a unique account for every technician on every domain. There's a tech client runs on each technician's computer. There's a management console that runs in the cloud, and there are a series of adapters that run in different places that technicians need accounts created, that create the accounts, rotate the passwords, and all that manual stuff that makes creating all those accounts untenable. So since there don't appear to be any chat or questions.
No questions yet.
All right, I'll just jump in and show a quick technical presentation
Perfect.
of what TechIDManager does for MSP. Can you see my screen here?
Yep.
All right. So this is the tech client. This runs on each technician's computer, shows them a list of all their unique credentials, and provides them the passwords they need when they need it. Like we can see here, I have an account in 𝗏𝗵𝗿𝗶𝗏@𝗂𝗏.org, which is specific to me. The other technicians at the MIT Martin IT company have different accounts with their name. So when you log into 𝗔𝗰𝗰, you can totally see who logged in. You get a lot of accountability and traceability. To use these accounts, because I know looking up passwords and copy pasting them or entering them can be difficult and time consuming for a technician, we have automated most of that too. So this is Screen Connect. When you get to the point where you want to log in Screen Connect, you see that this is the 𝗔𝗱 domain. I could scroll down to this list and find 𝗔𝗱, but if I was an MSP and I had 100 or 400 different domains I had accounts on, that can be kind of tricky. So we've increased the efficiency by adding searching functions and some significant help for the technician. They click search. Search is going to go out on the technician's computer. It's going to find all those open windows it thinks are remote connection tools. It's going to make an intelligent guess about what set of credentials this technician needs at this time to get logged onto the machines they want to log into. So if we click this, it takes this whole list and it narrows it down to 2. 𝗔𝗱.org, which are the credentials I care about, and server, which are another machine I have open on my screen in a second. Don't want to use these credentials. I could look at them, I could copy them, and then I could paste them in, but even easier, I can just click send to both. I'm going to short countdown, and then the tech client is actually going to type for me my specific username and my specific 16 character full random password into this window and get me logged in. So I didn't need to copy and paste my password. I didn't need to type it and possibly fat finger it. And the machine picks up. You see I get logged in, and I can move on with my day and do whatever I need to do. And we can see that my account has my name on it and my company name. So there's no overlap with a normal user on the system who also happens to have my same name. Because I'm Martin.MIT-admin, and the other user on the system who happens to have my same name is just regular Martin. When you're logged in, you can tell who's logged in. You don't have any real issues, no question. And since we are sending these characters and typing it, we integrate with almost every remote connection tool out there. RDP, UAC prompts on remote machines, TeamViewer, Splashtop, 𝗬𝗵𝗶𝗿, any of those. So you can really efficiently, as a technician, move through our day, find the credentials for the different machines we need, and get logged in. Something else that I saw technicians at MSPs often have to do, they have to double hop or triple hop to different places. So we have here is a remote desktop session for that server machine that it thought I might need credentials for. That machine is a virtual host. On that virtual host, we have a whole series of virtual machines running. If we look at this virtual machine, we see this is a Windows 10 machine attached to the 𝗁𝗁𝗁 domain. We clearly can't search for Windows inside of Windows on the remote machine, but if we just start typing in this window here, you see it narrows down the set of credentials we might care about. Right here, we found that I have two accounts that match these credentials, or match the search criteria of gold. One is a domain account on the 𝗁𝗁𝗁 network. One is a local administrator account that is also maintained on this machine for me. I'll get logged in with my domain credentials. So same thing. I click send both, and then click in the window I want those credentials entered. And then whether it's over a double hop, a triple hop, a quadruple hop into a web browser that's connected to a firewall with AD connected. As a technician, I got logged in and moved on my day. I didn't even know or see my password. But if I cared to see my password, I could enable showing the password, enter a passphrase. I can see that my password for the 𝗁𝗁𝗁 domain is %ddx, 16 full random characters, and it last changed around midnight last night. And it's going to change again around midnight tonight. So if somebody does compromise my password or my account, they're going to lose access at the end of the day. It's about as secure as it can be. You can see that all my passwords have changed last night, and they're all going to change again. Any questions about how that works or any of that? All right.
No questions so far. So does this work on individual machines as well as domains?
It does. This will run on domain controllers and make domain accounts that you can use to log in anywhere. This can also be run on non-domain machines or non-domain controllers attached to domains. In those cases, it will make local accounts on those machines. So I've talked to several penetration testing companies, and they say one of the #1 security faults that they exploit is they will gain any access to one machine, any unprotected machine, some machine that's on a network. And then they will, through a variety of mechanisms, which are usually pretty easy to do, they will dump the password hash out of that machine, and they'll run that through a dictionary, and they'll get the local administrator password for that machine. And almost every IT company, almost every MSP out there makes a local administrator account on a machine that has a standard password so that a technician can get in and work on that machine. But because they do that, that standard password, once it's found on one machine with a local administrator account, allows the penetration tester or bad actor in some cases to step sideways around the network using that same local administrator account on different machines to take over the whole network until they get to a machine that matters, like a server, and they log on a server with that local administrator account because it was installed there also for maintenance reasons. That is one of the biggest things that is exploitable. TechIDManager will actually manage local accounts on any Windows machine and do the same password rotation, the same unique account per technician, or if you just want a subset of technicians to have access to those machines, all that's good.
So locally stored, passwords are locally stored. What about someone had a question, have you tested this tool against EDR? Curious if it will generate any alerts.
Depends on the EDR. We've run in several zero trust environments. We've run in several environments with ThreatLocker, lots of different antivirus programs. All of them don't have any issues. We've never run into anybody who was unable to run this with any other software that ran on a machine. Yeah.
So what if Ruffian was hacked?
So
tell more about your security.
Okay. So we use asymmetric encryption to move all these passwords around. So we have an agent that runs on the domain controller that once a day makes up a random password for each technician, and then encrypts that with the public side of an asymmetric key pair. The asymmetric key pair, for people who might not be familiar, asymmetric key pairs are, to understand asymmetric keys, let's first talk about symmetric. Symmetric encryption is where you have one key that will encrypt and the same key will decrypt, like the decoder ring in a Cracker Jack box. Once you know how to encrypt something, you also know how to decrypt it. Asymmetric encryption is a different animal altogether. Asymmetric encryption has two keys. It has a public side key, which can encrypt something, and a private side key, which can decrypt that something. Anybody can get the public side key and anybody can encrypt something, but just because you can encrypt it does not mean you can decrypt it. You need the private side key to decrypt something. So we use asymmetric encryption like that. So we give the public key to the domain controller where the password is being generated. The password is made up, set, encrypted with that public encryption key, and then forgotten. And the public encrypted version of that is sent to our server and then sent back to the tech client on the technician's computer. On the technician's computer, in the settings, are the private key and the public key. That private key that's on the technician's computer is the only place where any of these credentials can be decrypted and seen. So in that way, our server that runs in the cloud does not store readable information. All the information that we store is encrypted with keys that we do not have. So if somebody hacks our server and takes over our entire database, they're going to get hundreds of thousands of passwords and credentials that are encrypted with hundreds of thousands of different keys that we do not have. Only each technician has the specific key that they need to decrypt their credentials. In this way, unlike most password vaults, somebody takes all of our data, they don't get anything usable by anybody else.
Wow.
Yeah, we have gone to some extraordinary lengths to make sure that bad actors on our side and bad actors, hackers, don't get this important information if they take it. We've been gone so far as the passphrase that I have to put in here to see the settings or to open this up for the first time whenever I open it. Is an encryption key that encrypts all the data that's cached locally on this machine. So that even if a bad actor who has administrative access gets access to a technician's laptop, which caches all these credentials, they cannot read the credentials because they have to get through the encryption to get that password. Does that make sense, Mark?
Yeah, it does. I was asking on behalf of one of the people that were that's on the call with us that is an attendee.
Yeah.
You know, what about so this works on cloud platforms as well, right?
It does. It works on Azure AD, and if you have any virtualized VCs, Green Cloud, AWS, anywhere you host the virtualized VC, we run with that. Run with on-prem domain controllers and work with Azure AD tenants, both hybrid and non-hybrid. We are looking to expand that into a whole host of other places where MSP technicians need access and they need accounts created, specifically where they need unique accounts created for everything that they access.
Right.
Because you should not use shared accounts. One of my favorite sayings is an old pirate saying. Part of the reason the company name is Ruffian Software is Ruffian. It's about as close to the word pirate as you can be without actually saying pirate. I couldn't name the company Pirate Software. That'd be a problem. But anyway, one of my favorite sayings is 3 people can keep a secret if 2 of them are dead. And the same thing kind of goes for a shared password. If you share a password with somebody, you have to assume from a security perspective that they know it forever. So you really should not ever be sharing passwords. I understand there's some technical, some like limitations where you really, some software doesn't allow everyone on account to share a password, and we support that. But where possible, everybody should have a unique account. And MSPs are in a unique position for that because they service so many different places.
Right.
You know,
What someone had another question, and it's speaking of passwords, is about the nightly password change. Does that have to happen? NIST, Microsoft, and Google say, for instance, stop changing your password.
So if you look at both NIST, Microsoft, and all those things, if you read the actual reasons why they say don't change your password, they say don't change your passwords for one very specific reason. It's a psychological reason with people. People, they say, should not change their passwords on a frequent basis, because when people change their passwords, they tend to not choose complicated passwords. They tend not to choose random passwords. They change it to 10 passwords that are like their name 1, their name 2, their name 3. And that makes that defeats the purpose of having password rotation. All of the reasons that anybody says don't change a password, don't change the password policies for changing should not exist, are because people got overly aggressive with it and they forced people into bad habits of changing the password. When you have a machine that's changing the password and is full random, you should change the password. The only way that you can revoke somebody's access to a system once they've gotten the username and password is to change that password. So the argument for not changing passwords is really an argument that individual people, based on the psychology of people, should not be changing their passwords because it leads them to bad habits. It's not about changing passwords to remove access. It doesn't remove access, because changing passwords does remove access. Many of the larger hacks that have happened in recent times have been stopped by just changing the password and removing the person's access.
So the question is, on that point, as someone just clarified, is does TechIDManager require the nightly password change?
Yes.
Do you require it? You do.
It does. It automatically does it, and it does it every 24 hours. You can choose the time it does it, and I'm very open to a discussion about any reasons that somebody thinks it should not change the password every 24 hours.
Yeah.
Because it's a fully automated change of the password, a full random 16-character password, and changing the password removes somebody's actually stolen the password. I've made some very good arguments for why it should be every 24 hours. I'd love to have a discussion with somebody about why it should not be that, or why it should be configurable. But the people I've had that discussion with, some very intelligent people, have all agreed, yeah, 24 hours is about what you should change it. And you change it at midnight if both the domain controller is on and the cloud service is on. So there's not a situation where the password will change on the domain or change on a machine and the cloud service doesn't know about it. If the cloud service is down, the passwords just don't change. So we're very downtime tolerant. All the pieces cache information, and they only change that information when they can actually all talk together.
Okay. So about the local application, does it support MFA before entering the master key?
So we have two founding principles at Ruffian Software. One, we don't keep keys, and two, we do not insert ourselves in the authentication process. So one of our founding use cases is that TechIDManager and the client that runs on the technician's computer can be offline and to go to a client site, set that laptop down beside a server that is also not connected in it, offline for some reason. And they can bring up their laptop, bring up the server side by side, show their password in TechIDManager, and then type that password into the server, which is not connected to the internet, to do what they need to do to fix that network and get it back on the internet. For that reason, we do not have MFA to get into the tech client that's on the technician's computer. We depend on, there are several levels to get into the tech client. First, you have to get logged on to the machine. If you use 2FA to get logged on to the machine locally, then that protects you from 2FA to get all that information. And if the management console that we have for TechIDManager, where a manager goes and approves technicians and disables technician accounts, that does have 2FA possibility.
What if the tech loses their laptop?
So for tech,
are the credentials exposed?
No, the credentials are not exposed. If a laptop is lost or stolen, the passphrase that has to be entered to get into tech client is actually an encryption key that encrypts all the locally stored information. So that locally stored information, including all the credentials, is all encrypted when stored locally. So unless somebody knows that passphrase, they cannot read the information that TechIDManager caches locally. If somebody loses, to expand on that answer, there's another thing that happens when somebody loses a laptop or gets run over by a truck. They want access to the same set of credentials. So if you go in the settings tab, you can export this key set and all this information to a file. You can put that, you should export that when you set this up. Each technician can put that somewhere safe on a USB drive, a secured locked USB drive, or on some other machine. And then if their machine gets lost, stolen, broken, corrupted, whatever, they can install TechIDManager on another machine, and they can come re-import those same keys, and then they get access back to all those same credentials with no interruption. Whole process of reinstalling Tech Client and importing those keys takes like 4 or 5 minutes. And then you get all the same credentials back, like nothing ever changed on the different machine. Which also means you can export these keys from one machine, like a laptop. If a technician uses a laptop and a desktop, they can import these keys on the desktop and have access to the same set of credentials on both machines.
So to that point, if there's a brute force protection on the local, is there brute force protection on the local client? Say a bad actor gets onto the laptop, they're able to log into the device while it's offline. Is there any protection that prevent them from just brute forcing the master passphrase?
That the simple amount of time that it would take to brute force that is the protection. The encryption keys that encryption would, if you tried to brute force it, depending on the length of your password, can take anywhere from weeks to years to brute force with hundreds of modern machines working on it.
Okay.
So you're pretty well protected. If you use a short passphrase like 2 or 3 characters, it won't let you do that. There's all kinds of protections to make sure the passphrase is at least entropic enough that it's not going to be quickly broken.
Another question from the group is, how much time does it take to disable or enable a tech?
Okay, so we have a management console. If in the management console, you go into the techs and you've added a new technician, they're going to show up as pending. I mean, when they're pending, they don't have any accounts created anywhere. They don't have any rights anywhere. No passwords have been created for them. You don't have any accounts. You come in, you click change to active. Then within 45 minutes to an hour, everywhere that they should have an account created, an account is created for them, the password is set up, and their rights are appropriately set. You can strike the rights at any level you want. First tier, second tier, third tier, in-tier technicians or contractors should have access to some places. Anyway, within an hour, they get a unique account everywhere by clicking this one button. If you have an active technician who leaves, their laptop is stolen, you think they've been compromised in some way, you come in here and you click this one change to disable button. With this one button click, TechIDManager will go out and will disable their accounts everywhere. Like to say, you can disable somebody's accounts across 1,000 domains, and tens of thousands of machines faster than you can walk them out of the building. Does that make sense?
Okay. Yep.
Yeah.
What is support like for TechIDManager? What does that mean to an MSP? What kind of support do you provide?
We provide both email and phone support with the subscription. You get some number of hours based on the number of number of places that you install it. And we strive to provide very good support. Most turnaround times in 24 hours, 24 business hours to turn around and provide answers to questions, things like that. For setting up TechIDManager for the first time, we always do white glove install. So we get a technician from your company, manager from your company, and pick a domain. Then we'll show up on a video call just like this, and we'll walk you through setting up TechIDManager and getting it all installed so that you have one working technician or more, one working domain or more. Everything is all set up and working, and then you can take that and extend it to all your domains and all your technicians. We're available for email support through all of that, and we'll even do a second white glove if you want to install it on more places, we'll help you do that. We'll walk you through the process as much as possible. We are here to help people make this successful. When I worked with the MSP, I saw lots of software that would just throw you an install package and then not be doing the support, wouldn't walk you through the install. So we always do white glove installs and always respond to emails and try to do 24-hour turnaround time on the email.
Right. So another question about the password change is that on Azure, it lowers your security score by changing your password. Does TechIDManager require the nightly password change? Yes,
it does require the nightly password change. The Azure tenants that we run on, like you can see this Azure tenant, I have not seen any issues with changing the password at every 24 hours on a 24 hours.
Okay. All right. What other features would you like to show the group here in terms of, you know, what stands out for TechIDManager, reasons why they should move forward here? What is licensing looking like? What's licensing look like? You know, talk to us about some of the other characteristics of your platform and what this means for MSPs that we didn't cover so far.
Okay. The main point, the main reason that any MSP should use TechIDManager comes down to we make unique accounts for every technician on every domain. And a unique account for each person is one of the underlying and basic stated premise in every single security framework. NIST, SOC, CNC, Microsoft statements, like everywhere said, you should have a unique account for every technician. It's just the underlying basis. All those frameworks that then extend to say you need to do MFA, they all are basing that statement. You should do MFA for individuals that have unique accounts everywhere. I got distracted. Okay. Happens sometimes.
Yeah, it does.
So another things that we do, so what we do is unique account for every technician every day. Because I work at MSP, I know that they have price concerns. So we price based, our price is on our website. Anybody wants to go see it. We price based on the number of places that the number of domains or places you install that adapter that actually makes and creates and changes the password. You get unlimited number of technicians. You get an unlimited number of personal password storages, shared password things like that. But it's based on the number of places you install the domain service. You install it up to 100 places, it's $125 a month. You install it up to 300 places, it's $250 a month. You install it up to 1,000 places, it's $375 a month. And it's $300 per month per block of 1,000 above that.
Okay.
So it's very reasonably priced. These are the prices right now. We do expect the prices to go up because it's always going. But they're not going to go up.
Now, what about outages? How are you ensuring that you don't have outages? Have you had any? And you know, what is your downtime tolerance for TechIDManager? So
TechIDManager has two things that really help with our downtime tolerance and our outages. One, we run multiple servers in AWS. So those are some pretty high uptime. We've not had any of those having issues in downtime so far. And the second is that we actually cache all the information for technicians locally on their machine. So in the morning, they can come in, they can just open this, or they can click refresh, and it loads all of their credentials locally. So then they can go offline to a client site and use any of those credentials by not being connected to the internet. That also means that if you do have an outage during the day where all of our servers go down and you just can't reach the internet, or somebody with a backhoe digs through your internet connection, you don't have an internet connection at your office, all of your technicians still have access to all of their passwords. So you are not knocked offline. You don't lose the ability to get access to a machine or a server's credentials that you need because you're not online. We cache everything locally, and we're very downtime tolerant. It's part of our statement that we don't insert ourselves in the authentication process. Don't keep keys, don't insert yourself in the authentication process. So if your client is not on the internet, you are not on the internet, you can still physically go there and you can still get logged in and still fix whatever the situation is.
Okay.
Try to be as downtime tolerant as possible.
Right.
It's important. I know that there have been several outages recently for a lot of different products, and it's really been a big pain. You see people talk about on Reddit and Facebook groups all the time. They're like, well, this thing is down. I can't get done what I need to get done.
Right. You're out of business if you're down.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And the password change that happens at midnight, if our servers are down, and they can't communicate, password change doesn't happen. If your server happens to be off at midnight, it does not, it waits till the next midnight time frame to try and do those password changes. Like you can see here, this machine is usually off at midnight, so I've set it to do its password changes in the 9 a.m. hour. This machine changes its password at 9 a.m. because it's usually in a bag at midnight.
Right.
Yeah. And these machines do their change around 3 a.m. because midnight's not a good time for them to do it.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So you have that flexibility.
Mm-hmm.
Another question that came up from the attendee group is, are you able to pull up a historical passwords? Meaning
Yes.
in the event of a backup recovery point in time recovery.
Yep, you right click, show account history. And then these are the history of my passwords since I started controlling this machine in 8.10. These are all the passwords that I've had for that machine, when that password got created, when that password is no longer valid, and the new password that got made at that time. So if you have a backup that came from, I don't know, 4/12/2021 at 3 a.m., this is the password you would need to get logged. This is the username and password that you need to get logged out of that machine. As you can see, this username is 𝗦𝗵𝗿𝗶𝗿@goldfish.net. But back in the beginning here, is martin.msp1@goldfish.net. And I've since changed my formatted usernames again because that's an option. You can specify what username format looks like on a domain by domain basis. So now my username, which is the same user tracked throughout the history there, is now called martin.mip@goldfish.net. And this was my password a few days ago. We have that complete history of passwords and username changes so that you can get logged in to any backup that you need.
Okay.
Like I said, worked with MSPs, and we tried to cover every situation that an MSP technician runs into where they need credentials and they have to deal with it.
Right.
Yeah. And if there are also cases where there are older accounts, like these are just the machines that I manage now with TechIDManager. There are machines, older accounts. There are other machines like this Lego network. I haven't managed that machine since 2019, but I can still go back and see what my password was in 2019 and back for that machine. But it's not something that, because all of my history is here. Now, I've really tried to consider, because for 12 years, I worked as the head of a development wing for MSP. I saw all of those situations, all of those middle of the night calls where a machine you couldn't get access to, you needed credentials, all those things. We've tried to cover all of those situations and make this as niche to MSP, privileged account management, as possible. Solve all. So another feature.
Go ahead.
That we have not talked about is these are the managed passwords. These are passwords where TechIDManager creates the account, does all that management. We also have a vault of user passwords. These are specific to me, passwords that I put in that I want to maintain. I get access to these passwords anywhere I have imported those keys from the asymmetric key. Anywhere I've imported those keys, I get these same passwords. We also have shared password vaults where you can say, even though on my little ivory tower, I say you should never share passwords, realize there are situations where particular vendors don't allow you to create unique accounts, other edge cases like that, where we have to share passwords for technical limitations at this time. We have that let you share passwords. So this is both a whole password vault and a privileged account management solution. We're mainly targeted, our main focus is a unique account for every technician.
Right.
Make sense?
I mean, you're, putting the control on your platform so the technicians don't need to think it through, right? And you avoid any potential human failure, right?
Yep.
And you increase the security and the tolerance level. Other questions among our audience here? No, we've had a lot of interaction from everybody that's been attending.
We also have reporting. So if you want to see who has access where, so you want to know who has enterprise admin rights on some particular machine. These are the 3 people that have enterprise admin rights on this machine. You want to know about who has domain user on that machine. See, these people have domain admin user on 𝗫𝗏𝗺, and we can see why they have it. Also, this does support another feature that we haven't talked about yet. Is this supports a co-managing situation? So you have an MSP that manages some business, and that business internally hires an IT or 2 IT people to just manage IT for that company. The way that should usually work, the way that usually works is those internal IT people are co-managing that IT with. They have 2 accounts. One account where they read email, they do daily things, and one privileged account. TechIDManager can be used to manage the privileged account for those co-managed situations also. So they get the same password rotation, security right setting, and history of passwords for the co-management, as well as just access to that domain. Because you don't have to give everybody access to every domain. It's a pretty niche case, but a lot of MSPs we talk to do co-managing, and then they end up using TechIDManager to manage the privileged account for the people helping them co-manage.
Yeah.
The best situation that I've run into that was one of our MSPs does a lot with doctors and dentists. And those doctors and dentists want to be able to have their own privileged account. They never use it, but they want to be able to have it in case they want to install some software or do something. But when you give one of those non-technical people a privileged account like that, first thing they do is they write that password. Somebody comes in and wants to install some software like a secretary. So they write their password down on a sticky note and hand that sticky note with their password on it to their secretary. Now all of a sudden, the administrator password or that privileged account password is on the secretary's monitor. With TechIDManager, we know that password is going to change at midnight. So if somebody walks in and sees it, they're going to lose access to it. It's the best management that you can do for somebody who wants to have, in a company that wants to have a privileged account, go to do all those things, but they're not going to be safe. They're not going to be secure with their control of using the password for the privileged account. We can help with that, and we can help a client become safer from themselves and their own background. Yeah. Does that make sense?
It does.
Huh?
Yeah. Had a request for a demo, and it's the best way to do that is do they go to the site, ask for a demo? Do they write someone specific on your team or connect with them in some? What's the easiest way? There you go.
So they go to ruffiansoftware.com. In the top right-hand corner, there's a request demo.
Okay.
Take you to a Calendly page, and that is the best way to see a demo. Pick a time.
There you go.
45 minutes, whatever day you want, and you pick have a demo.
Okay. Good.
Yes. Same kind of interface happens if you want a white glove install for a trial. You'll pick a time, it'll all show up, you'll install it, get you working, get it going.
Okay.
Mhm.
So this is a big space in security. It's on everybody's mind and everybody talks about it. It means a lot of things to a lot of people, but you know, what's it like being in the security space from a software developer standpoint? What do you think the challenges are?
The challenges are the variety of machines. From a technical perspective, it's the variety of places we have to integrate, things we got to do. Because just because you can talk to one domain server, the domain controller, they're all different. We've had to figure out how to talk to all those. We got that all worked out. And then talking to Azure AD, totally different thing than talking domain controller, even though they both serve Active Directory too. From a business perspective, we've been called Russian spies. I think the people were joking, but they're like, how do we know you're real? How do we know you're not a Russian spy trying to infiltrate our business? Like the difficulty of getting exposure, because as a small startup company, not everybody has heard of us. And they're like, well, we haven't heard of you from anybody else, so how do we know we can trust you? So there are a bunch of, like from a technical perspective, there are a bunch of blog posts on our website about how you can do Wiresharking and introspection and pen testing on our software itself to see that we really are doing the same thing. It's a fun thing to start a business. This is the third startup that I've been involved in, and I have really enjoyed all of it.
Yeah.
Yes.
But you've got a great platform and great solution.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So space where people definitely need something to automate.
Oh yeah. Right. And you know, mitigating the risk, not to take away from the people part of the business, because without people you don't have anything, but leaving less to chance, right?
Mhm.
So the randomization, the password change on a daily basis, how flexible you are, the reliability you have is, you know, really very impressive.
Yeah. We're striving to make this as easy as it can for MSPs.
We're coming upon close to the top of the hour. I want to be mindful of everybody's time that took some time out of their day to join us, and everybody's hung in there the whole time. Any final thoughts for everybody here on the meeting?
The biggest problem with privileged account management is the complacency that people have around doing it.
Yeah.
It has been a long-standing tradition in MSPs to have shared administrator accounts that everybody just uses. The recent change in the market from HIPAA, PCI, cyber insurance, NIST, all of those, and the government regulations that everybody says are coming. It is important to get ahead of the privileged account management problem and to start with unique accounts on your domain. It's a tricky situation, and it's even trickier for MSPs, and I would love to help MSPs address this. Schedule a demo, call me.
Okay. Okay. Other any further questions from everybody that's on the meeting? We've had a lot of great questions. There's a lot of good interaction, and we'd love to see that. Any closing questions anybody has for Martin and his team? Any promotions going on?
We are.
Great question. Got to ask, right?
Yes. If you book a demo or an install by the 15th of March, we'll waive the $250 setup fee for anybody on this call. Just mention this call and have a business group, and we'll waive the $250 setup fee.
Okay. There's an incentive. Good.
Yeah.
All right.
Especially if you hung on the whole seminar. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. It's been a very consistent attendance, so that's good news. Great. All right, Martin, thank you so much. I know our audience has as well. It's been a great meeting. You have a great solution and I think a great future. Security is here to stay, right? It's what we all think about every day. There's no doubt about it, especially in this industry. So we are going to send the recording of this call out to everybody here, those that either attended or couldn't make it but registered. So we'll have that out to you via email. And, you know, take advantage of what they've offered as an incentive and, you know, take a new level of security in your business as an MSP. So, all right. Thank you, everybody. Have a great day.
All right. Thank you all. Bye.
All right. Bye now.